What is up, everyone? This is Will Mosley. I make films, podcasts, articles, everything you can think of, creative content about the creative process. So anywhere from how to make a film to how to distribute a film to how to make a flyer, build a website, or even how to find confidence and self-awareness in yourself to pursue your passion. Lots of stuff that I put out on a day-to-day basis. This episode is literally just going to be a friendly update. Usually on Mondays I try to kind of give a little bit of an update on kind of how the week's been going, or like how last week's been going. And I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling pretty good. I literally... Oh my Jesus, hold on, I'm pulling out. Let's make sure I can pull out. Alright, we didn't get hit. That's always nice. This one's gonna be an update pretty much about some new film editing techniques that I've learned over the past week, and just kind of like a real grasp of what it takes to make certain things happen. I talked about a bit about Matt D'Avella's style, like how he has a really nice clean style. I've also talked in the podcast about MKBHD and how he's maybe taking topics and kind of talking about them, how they're coming up with this. Today I really want to I've been working on doing this. I'm actually working on a film right now for New Human, where the process is... It's almost like creating a world versus the world already being there for you. And I'll explain what I mean after this break. Alright, so I create films. They're not your traditional just corporate suit and tie films. The films that I usually create for clients and myself have a lot of personality, a lot of love, a lot of if you've seen the show Catfish, minus the drama, the run and gun style that you kind of see, where they're not afraid to have the camera in shot, where they're not afraid to kind of just put it around and do whatever they need to do to kind of tell the story. Similar to that. Speaking of Catfish, Catfish has a new season. Anyways, if you need a promotional film that's not afraid to be different, go over to my Instagram at @HeyWillMosley, and you can see a lot of 1-minute shorts of all the films that I've created. You'll also probably get to know me too. Lots of stuff there about me. Hopefully you find it interesting. If you do, hit me in the DM, or you can always go to heywillmosley.com and drop a quote there. Alright, back to it. So, general update. Overall, feeling good, feeling happy. The car itself, I had Micah over yesterday. He probably worked on the car. He worked on the car from 7:30 all the way to 1:30. So he worked on the car for a while, but good news is that the AC is fixed and the fans have been replaced in the car for the radiator, stuff like that. So we're driving clean with a nice air-conditioned van. I say that with a little bit of sarcasm because right now I'm sweating because I didn't want to turn the AC up too much and get a lot of background noise. But I think I'm going to actually cut it up a little bit. Hold on. Alright, hopefully that'll be much better on me. So that's dope. And I've over the last week, I've been thinking of how I can create this film in this style of a little bit of what Matt D'Avella and MKBHD have been doing and perfecting, and just I wanted a really nice clean video with beautiful visuals, beautiful voiceover, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it is not as easy as it seems. Go figure. So let's start with why the hell not? Okay, so to begin with, what they're probably doing, and this is kind of what I can tell. I can feel like I've studied it enough to know a little bit. I can't tell you for positive, but what they're probably doing is breaking down they're bulleting and like writing down a full list of things that they're talking about. Matt Diavella, definitely a lot of his stuff is scripted, but he has a very conversational voice, so it doesn't sound scripted. Especially like the B-roll stuff. I talked about that previous. MKBHD, I feel like he's a little bit looser. I feel like what he does is he setups next to a really nice shotgun mic for his A-roll, and he'll sit down, he'll hold the item in hand and talk about it, and that, like, I think he has like bulleted things, and he'll just kind of talk naturally about it in a conversational manner. It's not like written out, unless he's probably writing out specs and stuff. I mean, it is very possible that there's a couple parts that are scripted, but it seems like he just writes down a bulleted list and then kind of goes on about it with whatever the the subject is in hand, for a camera. I think that's genius. I think that's great. And then what they do after that is a step further, where all of the bulleted points or all of the scripted verbiage, they probably write down a shot that they want to kind of make happen for that. And MKBHD has kind of mentioned a lot that he's like playing these storyboards that's out like what the shots should look like, and he said he didn't used to do that. And I know that Matt Diavella, like, he works from home, but I don't think he storyboards it out, but he definitely probably writes down whatever the shot is that he wants to kind of get for each kind of bulleted point. That's kind of standard in movie making, but what the typical vlogger, if you're coming from my side of the spectrum, may not realize is how much time it takes to actually pull that off versus a style that we've probably seen a lot with like Casey Neistat. What he does is he knows he has a topic and he just fucking talks about it, and he goes to different places and goes around, and he's just like, you can feel like the chaos within what he does, and it's like a beautiful chaos. It's great. It like makes you want to get out, makes you want to like do stuff, etc. He's very good at continuing a thought, like he's literally maybe an hour later, and then picking up the exact same wording, so it seems like it flows organically. And then he also has talked quite a bit about how he has 3 different types of shots that he does. He has the establishing shot, where it's literally, getting his location and just kind of like that's that. He also has the locked off shot, is what he calls, and this is what a lot of these people call, like, they're in the studio at A-roll, but really his locked off shot is he just sets the camera down and he talks to the camera for a minute or whatever it is, and it helps you focus just on him and not the camera because he's not moving it around. And then his third shot is, of course, like the vlogging shot, where he just picks up the camera and he's moving, and it makes you feel like you're part of the environment, you're going around with him. It's very intelligent, very smart, very engaging. There are occasions and small bits of his thing where he'll have like studio shots where he's like top down, and it's often in his vlogs, but it's definitely not the bulk of it. The benefit of doing it Casey's way is all you really have to do for a first take is think about your topic, talk about it, move the camera, set it down, and then move it again as you continue with this. And, typically he's like out and about with like whatever the item is, and so you're really getting a real world look at it. It feels real world. And even with like his unboxings, he has a top-down camera, and he's just opening it. He's not trying to flash all sorts of crazy, cool, beautiful shots or plan out exactly the right shot. It's just like him opening it, and he'll cut wherever, to get through the process of opening. This is interesting. Bam, 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 bam. Now, with that, that means when you get all your footage back to post, it means that you already have the story. It means that you've talked about it, you've moved your location, you've gone through all the stuff, and all of it does make sense in a sequential order too. 1 second. Woo! When traffic gets completely stopped and you're going 50 miles an hour. It means that you already have the whole story, and it also contextually it makes sense. There's certain things that you have to do in post where you're trying to shorten it, or camera's on too long, or you wanted to add a little bit more context, but for the most part you're not building an entire world, which is a good segue into our next part after the break. Okay, so this isn't a why you need to get a quote sponsored post by me. This is if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel or my Instagram channel, I think you should. If you're on the podcast, and most likely you probably have seen my YouTube, but if you're just on the podcast and you're just listening along, there's so much more to what I do than this audio experience. So go over to my Instagram, @HeyWillMosley, and that should be enough to get you started. If you're more into full-length feature films, not feature film, they're like, you know what I mean, like full-length films that are like 10-ish, 15-ish minutes long, head over to my YouTube. You can also type in @HeyWillMosley, to Mosley, of course, and you should be able to find me. YouTube's crazy about their vanity URLs, so you got to be like super crazy big to have like an actual URL that points you directly to where you're supposed to go. Okay, yeah, that's the end of just a suggestion. All right, second part. Building a world. Now, I've seen this done a little. I've watched JR. God, what's his last name? I can't remember his last name. Sorry, but JR. He's talked a bit about building environments and building an ambiance and all sorts of different things, and it takes him months to make these things, but they turn out absolutely beautiful and they're crazy cool. But that's the thing. This is the thing that I'm coming to realize as I'm putting in the hard work firsthand. The way that I believe, and this is just the way that I'm going about doing it, they could have a better and cleaner process, more fine-tuned, dialed-in process, but I don't know that. So I'm just going to kind of share my own experience in building this style vlog that MKBHD and forgetting names already. Okay, anyways, so what they do, like Matt Diavella, what they do is they typically have that list. They have the shot list. Okay, so cool. Now here comes the hard part, right? What you maybe don't realize when you're making all those bullet points or all those sentences is it's easy to make a 7.5 minute film that has over 100 shots. And unlike my films where I literally am, I take my last import of the footage from the next film or two that I'm gonna have are like 400 shots. Like, you know what I mean? They're not like, that's no biggie because they're just part of my life and going about it. But 100 specific shots that you have to make happen becomes a much more daunting task. It's like, it's ultra focused, it's ultra laser. So if I'm talking about right now, I'm looking at in the front of me right now, there's a truck and they have a bike in the back. So if I was talking about bikes or whatever, and I mentioned these bikes are great off-road, like they're great off-road bikes. They pack up really easily. They're like, so just by me saying those two small tiny ass sentences, like that's like 4 seconds or 5, 6, well, whatever, 6 seconds. I said these bikes are amazing off-road. that means that I need to get a 2-second clip, maybe 3, of this bike or bikes or whatever being that specific bike, because they're talking about a product. You can't fake a different bike or a stock footage piece if it's that specific bike. You have to get that person or a person just kind of riding that bike off road, right? So that's tough. That could be a whole outing. That could be a whole thing. You're talking about how they, are compact. Well, you can do that in studio, but you also got to get that shot. And the list goes on. So I don't want to get too ultra deep into that, but the point I'm making is these, even though it's maybe specific about a product, every single sentence that they say, they're finding a way to present that. And what that does do on the up and up is it makes it very focused. It makes it very beautiful and clean. But it takes a lot of time. And I don't think people see that. I didn't really understand that or realize that when I brought this on. And so I'm deep in it. Not only that is the voiceover part of it. Because your voice, you're trying to say all these bulleted points, and I think MKBHD does this quite well. This is the approach that I would take if I had full control over the film, and I actually was confident with whatever the product or service or whatever was being presented. I'd literally conversationally talk about it with listed bullet points, and that's simple. What I've had to do for the New Human film, which is cool. It's great. The experience is like I'm learning how to do a lot more. I'm doing a lot more cool different things. It's definitely a ninja sword to my filming pack or whatever, but it's something that is much more respected now. I figured out I was using a snowball. A snowball is like an audio mic for the computer. I was using a snowball to do all my voiceover stuff, and I was coming up with pops like p, p, p. You're probably getting that in your ear right now, because I don't have I have a wind filter, but I don't have a pop filter. I guess is a different thing too. And I was coming up with a lot of those where it spikes the thing, because P's and I guess D's, if you say them, in succession or whatever, like if you say them, it can, ruin the audio. It can spike your stuff. So I decided, I was like, I need to figure out a way to make that not happen. And I was like, well, it's probably because I don't have a wind filter over top this mic. And the snowball, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, it's too big. It's big as hell. So I was like, Zoom H4 Pro. I know this thing can connect to the computer. I've tried it before. For some reason, it sounds like it's like a cartoon character. Well, my voice is really high. But finally, I don't know. I dialed in the exact right settings this time, and I got the Zoom H4 Pro to connect to Final Cut Pro, and I got I've got it down pat now. So for anyone that's like wondering what the perfect thing is, how to do that, very quickly, turn the zoom on, go to settings. I think it's like mode. No, what is it? Input? I can't remember. Sorry, I'm botching it, but I'm on the podcast, so it is what it is. It's in there. It's pretty much like if you look up how to connect your Zoom to a computer, I'm pretty sure that semi-good instructions will come up. The one thing that I didn't realize that I don't think I did before or realized is I got to the mode and it was like, do you want to do 44.1 hertz or 48 point whatever? And I clicked 48, and then after that I had to click connect. I don't believe I clicked connect previous or chose like a mode. I feel like that was the problem. Anyways, long story short, I got that to connect to Final Cut Pro, and now I'm going to be able to do clean, easy voiceover for Final Cut Pro like a champ. So that's dope. That is definitely a skill I'll use all the time now. Now, for that, what I was originally doing, these are just like mistakes. Remember, this is like an update and like me just kind of sharing what the past week has been like. With doing that, Final Cut has a really cool feature where you can do voiceover stuff in like takes, like so it'll remember the different takes that you did, which is really convenient. Like if you need to go back a take or whatever, or not have crazy amounts of random audio footage that's just chilling on your timeline. That's cool. But the problem was this. I took all the effort in every single, for every single text block, I pretty much wrote out what the text I needed to say would be pretty much from that just Google Doc outline. And that was a lot of work to begin with. It's like writing out all the words that you have to say again, like after they've been written already, is a pain in the ass. So that's like double the amount of time like a film would take or can take. And then for each of those, I'd do like a voiceover. So each like 10-second maybe segment, I'd do like a voiceover for. And the stopping and starting and stopping and starting and retaking and starting and stopping and stopping and starting and overdo, like it became obnoxiously irritating. Like it was getting the work done. And don't get me wrong, when I listened back and I had like a nice little like chill soundtrack underneath, I was like, damn, this sounds really good. This sounds like MKBHD's film. This sounds like Matt Diavella's film. This is really good. I'm really proud of the audio like with this. But the time is, you can't take away the time or the factor of getting this stuff done. So what I finally decided to convert to was, I was like, screw it, I'm just going to read from the entire outline that was in the Google Doc and just all the way down until my mouth gets like crazy dry, and then I'll like stop and then I'll continue. And that worked out well. I did about 3 or 4 different, I probably stopped maybe almost 10 times, but I feel like I got through about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes before having to stop each time, which is good, for a 15-minute film. And that was, so I got that to the timeline, that was good, etc., whatever. And now here's the crazy, horrific part that, is daunting after doing all that. You did all the text, you did all the audio, but guess what? Now you have to find visuals for every single one of those talking points that you've made. It's a lot of work, and that is what people do, and I think that's why films are so expensive, because like, you want a shot, well, I gotta make that shot, and you just make it. And it's not like the shot is always complicated to make, but it does take a certain sense of, I need to make this work. So this third segment is how I'm hacking the system to make it move a little bit faster. Not a lot much faster, but a little bit faster. Okay, so remember Casey. Remember his vlogging style, where he's just kind of moving around, talking about his topic, yada yada yada, going about his life, comes back to the studio, imports it onto the timeline, and edits his film. Already, by the way, that's no small feat to begin with. It's a lot of work, so not to discredit that. But comparatively, we were talking about building the audio, getting all the text right, and now we need to figure out how to come up with over 100 shots. Like in more than 100 probably. This is probably 150 shots. Because if you think about it, you're for shots not to get stale, you usually are moving them every 2 to 4 seconds. And I actually move my shots much quicker in my films, but for like a corporate client kind of film, 2 to 4 seconds. So how many clips is 2 seconds in a minute? Well, that's 30. So 30 shots every minute, that's exhausting. That's really exhausting. 3 times 15, that's 450 shots. And it's just not acceptable. It's overkill, it's too much. So here are some things that you can do to hack the system to be able to get that really nice voiceover, those really nice clean shots, but maybe not have to get as many shots. Okay, so the first thing that I knew that I had to do was I needed to get like what I'm gonna call like default roll. Default roll. It's extraordinary new term. Pretty much what default roll is I needed to get a general filming of whatever the film was about. So the film was about the technology, so I got a lot of shots of the technology, like a lot of the hand shots of the technology, a lot of me just kind of like pointing out specific features of the technology, all that stuff. This was all in one take, and it took me some time to do, but the fact is that that was just like a one straight whatever shot. And if you will, if you're not going to have a person in this, like an actual like talking head person, this is kind of technically our A-roll, if you want to think of it out in that way. If you have an A-roll person, you know that person, looking at that person for 10 minutes can get dry, so you add footage on top of that to make that maybe feel way less, dry. So with this circumstance, the technology or the subject or the topic had to be the A-roll. So I got about 15 minutes worth of footage there, and chopped that down. I put that on the timeline, and so I'd say about half of the film would make sense with that. And that footage didn't take. It's not the 450 clips or 150 clips, you know what I mean? It's not that crazy amount of work. But it can't fill in for everything. It's just like that's there to be able to come back to when there's not enough, when you can't get the shot for the talking head, or you can't get the shot for the whatever talking point, say that mountain bike that you were talking about, right? And you couldn't get the shot of it being great off-roading. There still could be like that shot where it still is flashing in the studio, where it's just kind of like rotating of the bike and the bike's kind of doing this thing. It still contextually makes sense. It's not the best thing, but it's better than a black screen, right? Now, okay, that gets dry really fast. What else can I do that's cheap, that doesn't really cost me any money to be able to sell this effect without having to shoot any more footage? Well, Vimeo has about 1,000 stock footage clips that you can use for free if you have any like sort of plan with them. The problem with that is they're very basic. They're good shots, but if you're looking for sustainability over like film after film after film, you're probably going to be able to use those clips once or twice, and then those are going to be kind of useless. So I'm cashing that in right now. I'm using those clips right now. But what I'm also doing is going to unsplash.com. Unsplash is a free library where you can use commercial photos for free. You don't even have to give credit, and it's fairly good high quality. Of course, the selection is a little bit limited, but it's growing much faster than what the free stock libraries used to be once upon a time ago. So if I'm talking about and then I sneeze and then the ball. If I'm talking about a bee and it's pollinating or whatever, right? For some weird reason that's in my film, I can search bee, or I can search for flower, and I can get a flower, pop that in there, fill the screen with that photo, and then pretty much zoom in by about 10% as it kind of moves by on the screen. So it looks, there's a little bit of movement. Not the best, but it's better than a whole bunch of just A-roll of whatever your topic is forever. It kind of brings a little bit back to it. Now, the sad part is for a lot of this stuff, you are still going to have to go and get the shots you need. So that's what I did today. I went and got some more shots to be able to add it to the film. So I'm hoping that it's enough to be able to fill in It makes sense, and I know what's gonna come of this film is it's gonna be beautiful, and the voiceover is gonna be nice and clear. Unlike some things that you might get, if you're just like running and just kind of rolling around. But what cannot be overlooked is the amount of time and energy it takes to kind of pull all of that off. And a lot of people might actually say, like, if you put, I don't know, Casey's film next to MKBHD's film and say, what's more entertaining or engaging, or which one's better. They're both very good in their own merit. And MKBHD's like filmed stuff, like it's he's filming it on a red. It's all in the studio, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Casey's using, it's still a pretty expensive camera, but comparatively to what, MKBHD's Marquez is doing, it's crazy. And I would honestly say that I love Casey's films better. Like, I like MKBHD's studio and the vibe and like the cleanness, but I don't really know MKBHD or Marquez. I know of some of his interests, but I don't really know him. Like, I don't see his life. I don't see what's kind of going on. I don't see these things outside of one spot. And the remarkable thing about Casey is all of this is surrounding his life, so you're getting to know that person, that character way better. And so it's not to say like either one is better than the other, but it has to be recognized that MKBHD's like, he has a team. He's probably mastered whatever he's doing. He has all the sets and stuff for it. He's kind of mad, but the it's undeniable the amount of time that it probably takes to be able to pull these films off. Same with Matt Diavella. So what should you do? I think if you're just starting out vlogging, I definitely think you should follow the just fly off the seat type of style, because it gets you out of your comfort zone. It gets you just moving and going and shaking and everything else that comes with that. And it gives you confidence. Staying in the studio and trying to get the most cleanest shots makes you a slave to perfection, and it does look better for the portfolio. It looks nice, because it's easy to be able to pull. It's not easy. It's easy to say this beautiful corporate clean film that was made. You're like, okay, reproduce that. That looks really nice, and you have a system to be able to do that, and that is important. You're able to recreate this from the ground up without having too much of any other influence. Going along Casey's route, it's the reason why it's so engaging is because it's him, and he's running it out there with the product, and he's doing his thing. But if they were like, hey Casey, we don't really want you in the film, what would happen? Right? That means that you would have to get the client or the whoever it is that has the product, you have to start getting them on camera and getting them to present and do all this stuff when they probably aren't. That's not their knack, and so it may come off. You're gonna have a much more tough time maybe pulling that off than just building it from the ground up yourself. Okay, so hey, I hope you enjoyed that one. That was I was really expecting just to give you an update on the van and stuff, but I guess it's been on my mind. I don't know. It's cool. So Will, are you going to do this for your films? You said that you would. Well, I think to a sense, but I don't think to the extent that I thought I would originally. I think that maybe a segment of my vlog maybe where I want to get ultra focused for like a minute and really cover some stuff very quickly. I think that might be cool. Very clean, very nice. But my original thought, with it taking, me talking about all these different things and maybe taking over a lot, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. But hey, you just gotta watch my films and see. Alright, I hope you guys have a great... Woo, Jesus. Hope you guys have a great day. I hope that you took something away from this. And, yeah. Catch you on the next one. Peace.